Right, so today we've got a Kia Cee'd. It's a 2013 model with the 1.6 diesel 16 valve engine in it. It's done just over 136,000 miles. So, oil and filter change, that's what we're going to do. A good tip before you start, before you get underneath, taking off the under tray and draining it down. Just pull out the dipstick a little bit. We'll take the filler cap off, or both. It just helps to stop it glug as it comes out of the sump, allows the air back into the engine. As you can see, I've got it up on the ramp. The first thing I need to do is get the under tray off. They've got quite a big under shield belly pan on these. Most cars do now. Pretty standard fixings, 10mm bolts, Phillips screws. So I'll crack on and see if I can remove it. As you can see, these are plastic fittings, so that pushes up into the slot. Then when you wind the screw up, it flares out. When they get old, the screwdriver doesn't bite in there very well and the thread isn't great, so they're a bit of a pain to get out. I managed to, you can either get a little screwdriver under the head of the screw and put it down. As you can see, that just pretty much pulls out. Bit of wriggling around, but unfortunately that's the kind of stuff you come across on an older car. We got there in the end. So now the under tray is finally off. Here's the engine sump. There's a sump plug, which is, in this case, a 17mm. That's just cracked it loose. Now you've got to remember, if the engine's hot, the oil's hot, it will come out a lot faster. This is reasonably warm, but it's not hot. I'm going to hold this drain tray up high anyway, just in case. I've ended up peppered in the stuff plenty of times. Right, here we go. That was the washer falling in there. There's normally either a washer or a rubber seal on those sump bungs. Most of the time you can reuse the washer or the seal, but make sure you check it first for any splits. Okay, we'll just let that drain down for a little while. Right, so this has been draining now, probably 10 or 15 minutes. I think we've got out of the engine all that we're going to get out, to be fair. That could drip like that for hours. I've retrieved the copper washer, which looks fine. There's no nasty gouges, hasn't been crushed. So I'll reuse that, it's good to go again. I'll give that a little wipe off first, actually. I think that surface is all good. Yep, dripped on. So you do kind of get a feel for sump bungs, really. It just needs to be nipped. Don't over tighten it, because you have to remember this is an aluminium sump and you can strip the threads on these. That's it. I'll carry on now and get the under tray back on. Right, back under the bonnet, under tray's refitted. I'm going to take this cover off. Normally just a ball and socket. Yeah, there's the rubber sockets. Just locate onto these pegs, push down. You can see here, this is the oil filter housing, the plastic housing. It's a 27mm socket, which is quite common on most engines actually. Before I take that right out, I'm going to grab some tissue because they do sometimes drip a bit. There's the housing. So there's a rubber O-ring right there, which I need to remove. The oil filter is still down in the main part of the housing on the engine. It should just pull out. Yep, there we go. Put that there for a minute. So I'll get this out without making too much mess. So there we've got one old filter. So I'll take that housing over to the vise and we'll change the rubber O-ring first, I think. Right, so we've got the filter housing in the vise. I'll just do that. It's like having another pair of hands hold that still for you. The oil filter also comes with a couple of O-rings. Now the big one, which I'd already shown you, is on here. Try not to ping oil everywhere. Make sure that goes back into the groove. That's it. Then there's another little O-ring at the top here, which looks like it's going to be a little bit fiddly to get out. Yeah. This is where I stabbed myself. I think I'll see if I can get another little screwdriver in there. I don't think that's been off for a long time. Ah, there you go, it's actually split. That's it, back on. Okay, so I'll take that and the filter back over to the car. This filter is the same both ends. It's worth checking when you take the old one out. Make sure it's, you know, doesn't have to go up one way in particular. Most of them are the same both ends, but there are one or two which have to go up one way or the other. Okay, so that's back in, the seal is back in its groove there. That bit of a wriggle and on it goes. These are normally around about 25 newton meters, 35, is that 35? Yeah, 35 newton meters. Which if you have a torque wrench is great, go for it. But like most things, everything on the car's got a torque figure, but as long as you're sensible and just nip it up accordingly, you'll be fine. That's it. Don't go any tighter than that because it's plastic. Okay, so sump bung's in, oil filter's done. I'll take the dipstick right out actually. We'll go and measure out some oil and we'll put some in it. So this engine on the specifications says 5.3 litres of engine oil. It's my fancy funnel made from a plastic bottle. Fits nicely. I'm going to start with 4 litres of engine oil and see where we go from there. Really don't want to put too much in and end up having to take it back up in the air, drain a bit out. So always better to start with a smaller quantity and work your way up slowly. .3 does seem a lot for this engine, but they know what they're on about. Right, I'll just start that up and let it tick over and make sure the oil light goes out. Yeah, oil light went straight out. Sounds fine. So what I'll do now is pull the dipstick out, leave it for 4 or 5 minutes and let it settle, and then see where we're at with the oil level. Right, so this has stood for 4 or 5 minutes now. I'm expecting it to be a bit low. Get the dipstick out and give that a clean off. Let's see where it's at. Yeah, as you can see, that's just above the minimum mark. Got a little way to go to maximum. It's generally kind of roughly a litre from minimum to maximum on most engines, not all. So I think I'll put another ½ litre in and see where that takes us to. But basically that's all you've got to do, just put a little bit in at a time, let it stand for 4 or 5 minutes, dip it and see where you're at. Get it as close to that maximum mark as possible. If it's slightly under, that's fine. As you can imagine, as it stands overnight, it will bring it up to the maximum. It's better to be slightly under than slightly over. So I'll carry on with that, topping up and checking until we get there. Okay, so I've been topping up in small quantities, get as close to that maximum mark as possible. And as you can see, we're a fraction under, if not on it. So that will be fine. But like I say, just do little dribbles at a time. Try not to go too mad and overfill it. Ended up taking 5.2 litres in the end. Whereas the specification sheet said 5.3, so I didn't go too mad. There we have it, one oil and filter change on a Kia Cee'd. I will give it a little run round the block and make sure there are no leaks, but I'm sure that's going to be fine.